We all search for that spark which fuels our desire to fully engage in our lives. We look for the courage to experience moments where we can come alive instead of watching life pass us by. You're listening to the Front Row Factor, leaving fear and insecurity behind by exploring stories of top performers that are living life in the front row. Get ready to stand up, step up, and live it up with your host, John Vroman.
Hey, Front Row family, John Vroman here. I'm super excited that you're with me today because I am talking to Robin Littman, who is the mother of Rachel Littman, a Front Row Foundation recipient who went to go see a live taping of the Big Bang Theory TV show. And today, Robin's going to take us on a journey. She's going to share the entire experience, and she does it in such a way that you'll feel like you're right there. And I will promise you, when this interview is over, you're going to be a better person. I was scribbling notes. There are ideas, quotes, and there's concepts in here that will help you to live a better life. Now, in case you're listening to this show for the first time and you have no idea what Front Row Foundation is, it is an organization, a charity that helps kids and adults who have a life-threatening illness to see the live event of their dreams from the front row. This is concerts, sporting events, theater, and TV shows, or anything that is a live performance. And I will tell you that it's more than just about a day. It's about how we live every day of our life. Living life in the front row is about, being somebody that can be present in the moment, that you have the ability to, to rise up, to speak up, the type of person who can express themselves boldly and courageously. And so living life in the front row is a lifestyle. Robin and Rachel and their entire family, they live life in the front row. And to give you a little background on Robin, she's a fascinating woman, and she's been happily married now for 25 years, the mother of these two beautiful adult twin daughters. Eva, one of her daughters, was actually a front row intern for the last several months. Has been doing a great job. Our team absolutely loves her. And Rachel, who is the Front Row Foundation recipient, you can see her story on our website. Just go to frontrowfoundation.org/Rachel. We'll also link to that in the show notes, which you can access from your phone or your computer. But I will tell you that we're going to talk all about Rachel and her life during this interview. Robin herself has been, has worked in labor employment law in a private firm and in a corporate setting for years. She's a native Texan. She has participated for a long time in community service, and she's got a blog. We'll link to that as well. And she is the type of person who believes wholeheartedly in living a good life, doing good and being good. And she talks about that not being obedient, but just a good person. And in this show, we talk about so much great stuff, in particular, how her daughter Rachel has overcome some pretty significant personal challenges and continues to thrive to this very day. And there's so much there that we can all learn from. The importance of self-reliance we get into, the power of full acceptance, and whether or not we allow for adversity to define us. And if we do, is it an empowering way? At about 30 minutes, I will tell you that she really gets into a fun story. So make sure that you hang in there to this interview because it just gets better and better and better. So ladies and gentlemen, enjoy my chat with Robin Littman, the mother of Rachel Littman, a Front Row Foundation recipient. This is awesome. All right, I've got Robin Littman on the line. Robin, good morning.
Good morning to you, John.
Hey, thanks for taking time for the Front Row community here, which you have done so many times before. Thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
I love your energy in the Facebook community. I love how expressive you've been with not only your gratitude, but the follow-up after your daughter's experience. I just want to say thank you for being somebody that really lives the Front Row message.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I have learned a great deal from the experience, and certainly I've learned even more from being Rachel's mom.
That's wonderful. Well, I can't wait to talk about Rachel and you and your family. There's so much here that we get a chance to explore today, but let's start with a 60-second brag session. Whenever I'm talking to my friends, I'm like, give me the goods. I want to know what's great in your life right now. What are you excited about?
Well, what I'm excited about is after listening to one of your 4-minute podcasts, Reconnect to Your Purpose, I finally committed myself to creating my blog, the robinsnestcorner.wordpress.com. It's a little like Front Row and your messages in the sense of I love to connect with people. I love to create community, which I think is vitally important in this day and age where community seems to be less and less because of technology, and just share my thoughts, my experiences. I think it's a way of giving people perspective and hope and maybe guidance, particularly in this day and age when access to whether it's therapy or mental health or even friends can sometimes be compromised. And it's different passages and thoughts and musings I've had in my head for years. Many I've written down, many I've shared with friends who've asked me over and over again to write these things down and commit them to one place. And I finally sat down and launched it. And I feel excited that this is a new turn in my life.
That's great. Well, I took a look at it this morning, and we'll link to the blog in the show notes here. I'm really happy for you. That's exciting.
Thank you.
You know, when you sat down to begin writing, did you have one topic or one idea that you were so excited to get out first?
I think the first thing that came to my mind was how can people focus on minimizing difficulties in their life, finding control, finding a way out. And I've had many, many different circumstances where on my own, I had to find my way out. And I am living, I believe, a success story because of all of the things I did from sort of a self-survival standpoint. And so that's where I wanted to start, to say, here is, we all want to find a place of peace in our lives. And sometimes in the swirl of life around us, our economic circumstances, our family circumstances, it isn't always easy to find that place. And yet it is there. I've always believed deep down inside of us, there is a place of source, a strength that we can turn to. But people often don't know it's there or how to find their way to it. And that's the place where you can control the events in your life, and in particular, how you respond to them. And that was the thing I wanted to get across first and foremost, is that was the direction of all of this.
That's great. You are the mother of two wonderful girls and
Yes.
two
Yes.
ladies, and I will tell you that they are very lucky to have a mom such as you.
Oh, thank you. I'm very lucky to have them.
Let's talk about your girls for a moment here. I know that's something you love to chat about. And I would have mentioned this, of course, leading up to the show, but Eva has been part of our front row team now for the last couple months.
Yes.
She's been doing a fantastic job. She fit right in, and the team
Oh, thank
absolutely
you.
loves working with her.
Oh, thank you. She's enjoyed the experience enormously. And she is also somebody, like everyone else in our family, like my father, believes in the must-do attitude of every person who lives, and that is, I must contribute back to society in some way. It's what we Jews call tikkun olam, repairing the world, helping make the world a better place. And so she's always been involved in some form of community service throughout her life, and this is just a continuation of that.
Wow. That's something I would love to explore with you as well, as I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I want to make sure that we're talking about, I think he sees that in my world because it's a daily occurrence for me.
They do. I remember when I was pregnant with the girls and a cousin came up to me one day, I was crying and she said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "How will I turn these children out to be good people, not obedient, but good people?" And she said, "They will watch you. Whatever you do, that will be the exposure they need." And sure enough, whatever I did in terms of charitable work, I was always fully participatory, as my father always said. Don't be on the sidelines, be a leader, be part of being the solution. And I took them everywhere I went so they could see what I was doing. It wasn't, mom's away doing for somebody else when she could be doing for me. It was, we're all going to do this together. And so I don't know why I was shocked, but in Eva's either her second or third year of college told me that she was going to be president of an organization that basically did service work. And I was stunned. It was, first of all, president, my gosh, I don't think she'd even been secretary. She just went straight to the top, and she had a vision about what she wanted to be and how to expand it. And it was, okay, yes, I've done the right thing. I've done the right thing. So
that's so great. Well, that makes me feel good because that's something I can control.
Yes.
Are my actions.
Yes.
So your daughter Rachel was a recipient of the Front Row Foundation, immediately became, again, somebody that the community, our team, everyone involved in Front Row fell in love with right away.
Oh, thank you.
She had an incredible experience seeing a live taping of The Big Bang Theory.
Yes. Oh, it's fabulous.
And the pictures and the video are all available at our website, which we'll link to in the show notes. If somebody's listening from their computer in particular, they can go to frontrowfoundation.org/Rachel, and you can see all of what we're talking about right now. But I want to spend a few minutes chatting about your experience, your family's experience, Rachel's experience with Front Row Foundation. And as you know so well, Robin, that the charity believes that we sort of operate with these three principles of having hope for the future, living in the moment, and then celebrating our experiences of life. And I want to explore each of these with you in relation to Rachel's experience with Front Row. And let's maybe begin at the hope piece, where maybe you could take our listeners on a walk down memory lane for you and for Rachel about what happened. How did you first get connected to Front Row? And talk to us about the early moments leading up to the event. So what were some of the highlights for you and for Rachel in those early moments of knowing that the event was coming?
Well, I have a very dear friend by the name of Brianna Greenspan. I met her through charity work that we both do for Hadassah, which is the largest women's organization in the world. And she happened to mention to me about the Front Row Foundation. I thought, I've never heard of this. What does it do? And she explained to me, and she said, she thought that Rachel would be a wonderful recipient. And so I found the application form online, filled it out, thinking, really, what chance do we possibly have? There's so many children out there, young adults and adults, who need something like this in their life, something to make them feel wonderful, if only for a day. And then I was absolutely shocked to see a response back almost immediately, saying, thank you, we're going to look this over. And then almost immediately after that, you've been accepted. And I didn't know what to make of it. It was, and to be accepted for a trip that was pretty darn difficult to put together, because Big Bang Theory is an extremely popular show. We had thought about maybe surprising Rachel with a trip out there, but when we saw what it would take to get the tickets, and that it was almost impossible to guarantee a seat in the viewing, I thought, well, that's just not going to happen. So I was completely shocked that it came together so quickly, so seamlessly. And when the day came in which we revealed it to her, and luckily Eva happened to be home, and Rachel didn't know that the camera for Eva's phone was on, as I read this letter to her, and the expression on her face was priceless. She was speechless, and my daughter's never speechless. She was speechless, and it was just one of those. It was one of those moments, and it's possibly hard for people to understand who don't have children with chronic medical conditions, of how rare these wonderful moments come along. And usually there's a crisis of some sort you're dealing with. Usually there's a drudgery of dealing with certain aspects of your life that other people don't have to deal with. And some of it is just getting through each day in a healthy manner. And so to have something so unexpected, something that would take you out of that drudgery and out of sort of the stress and the tension of living with managing all these medical needs and whatnot, you could just see her entire spirit lifted up as I read this letter to her. And so that set in motion a change in her that continues to this day. I could tell you something that she did yesterday that was just stunning to me. So it really already in that area, and I know Kaylee was asking me this, really, was there a change? I said, yes. I wish I could show you a before snapshot and an after snapshot, but something to her said, I know I'm special. I know I'm a good person, but now I must be really something special that this came my way. And so that was the beginning of it.
That's so wonderful. Can you walk us through a little bit of Rachel's life and
Sure.
what does her life look like and what has it looked like over the years? What types of things does she contend with each day?
Sure. Well, Rachel was born with a very rare Jewish genetic disorder called familial dysautonomia. It's also known as Riley-Day syndrome. I believe there's only about 200 to 250 individuals in the world alive with it.
Wow.
At the time, there was more. Luckily, since that time, they've discovered the gene that causes it, and now there is testing for it so that individuals who don't wish to conceive a child with this condition can now avoid it. And because it's so rare, it can be very difficult for someone to diagnose it and then to get before the right individuals who can give you advice on it. We were very, very fortunate that here in Houston, having such a wonderful medical community, she was diagnosed very early. She was maybe about 3 months old, and she happened to be in the hospital for pneumonia, which is usually one of the first signs that something is not right. And a neurologist happened to say, "Are you Jewish? I think she has this." And as a result, very early on, we were able to put interventions in place to protect her health. Most of these kids have problems with swallow function, so great difficulty drinking and eating, which can lead to what's called aspirations, which can lead to pneumonias. And it's what's called a silent aspiration. They don't even know that things are being misdirected down into their lungs. And so we were very fortunate when she was only 3 months old to have a nasal gastric tube in place. And then when she was about 9 months old to have a gastric button placed in. And so we were able to protect her lungs until she was old enough to be able to eat in a fashion that would not endanger her lungs. So very early on in her life, when she was only 11 months old, she was taking 3 therapies a week: oral motor feeding therapy, physical therapy, and fine motor therapy. Most of these kids have delays that are universal, from the use of their hands to walking, controlling the pelvic girdle, controlling fine motor function, you name it. And I say, and I mean this sincerely, everything you see my daughter do, it was taught to her by a therapist, from controlling her fingers to even her smile. I had to work with her daily on forming a smile. It's as if they're born with all of their nerves intact, but they haven't somehow been touched in a way to work correctly. So it's all there. It's almost like it's lying dormant. And so through her life, she was hooked up every day, several times a day, to a feeding tube because she could not eat normally. We had to be very, very careful with her in her gross motor activities because they were delayed so she wouldn't hurt herself. She also has decreased pain sensation. And so these children could break a bone and they wouldn't even know it. And so we had to be very, very careful in watching her surroundings and in teaching her, if your head touches something, you need to tell someone because you could have hurt yourself. And we had to not just teach her, but her teachers, any caretakers. So her early years were basically trying to keep her medically stable, trying to keep an environment safe for her, and then lots and lots and lots of therapy to get her to a position that would be considered normal. And luckily, through years of therapy, around the age of about 7 or 8, she began to eat in a fashion that was safe. And then at 13, she was able to drink normally. And so these tube feedings went down significantly. And really the only thing she had in terms of food that we had to place into the tubes. But we also, over time, was able to decrease her dependency on a nighttime feeding, which meant that at night when she went to bed, she was actually hooked up to a machine that provided enteral formula through her gastric button. So she's grown up around a lot of medical equipment at home, grown up a lot around therapy. There was always something having to help her get to another place. That time in therapy was the time that most kids spend playing softball or learning an instrument or going places with their friends. But it was absolutely necessary to get her to the healthiest place she could be. And one of the nicest things was the front row trip was actually the very first time that she traveled without her nighttime pump. And I remember when we got to the airport, I felt like something's missing. Where is this, large luggage that usually contained all this formula and this pump stand? It was bizarre to just feel normal. It was bizarre to feel normal. And in fact, on that trip, something happened where y'all provided us passes to Universal Studios, and we walked in, and normally we take with us everywhere we go a bag that has some of her bottles so she can do an enteral feeding. Usually it's just a salt liquid if we need to. And she looked at me and she said, I don't think I need it. I have my water bottle and we'll stop for lunch and we'll be fine. And she put it in a locker. And as we walked through the park that day, gorgeous day in Los Angeles, it was my husband, me, my daughter. She had a water bottle. I had my purse. I was holding my husband's hand. It was so normal. It was frightening. We didn't have some other piece of medical paraphernalia with us. And it was a moment of liberation for all of us to be at a place that was so normal that years earlier I could never have imagined. She's had to deal with a lot of the medical aspects of her disability, and the disability also has learning issues with it as well. And so in addition to therapies for all of these motor functions, she also needed therapies for her learning disabilities. So a great deal of remediation efforts in order to catch her up to her peers. We're still working on that, but luckily Rachel has the most amazing attitude, and people always tell me, you're the one to be credited for this. And I said, absolutely not. This is something that has come from within her. All her life, the therapists have all said to me, most kids come in here, they can't do it the first time, they pound their head against the wall, and then you spend the rest of the time convincing them they're good and they're going to be fine. Rachel comes in ready to work, and we get what we need done in that 50 minutes. And I said, that's because I saw very early on her completely and totally accept what has happened to her and her choice not to allow this to define her. I didn't teach that to her. Trust me, I did not teach that to her. It was just who she is, and it's made all the difference in the world to where she is now as an adult. She made it happen. And she's also taken experiences like Front Row and added to that sort of repertoire of, I know I can do things. I can only go up. I'm already down at the bottom. I can only go up. So I'm going to use this to build on what I have. Most kids, I think, don't know where to place these experiences, or they don't know how they should be in relation to their peers. Rachel decided to just be herself. As a result, she has the most amazing coterie of friends since she was 8 who love her and adore her and support her, not in a patronizing manner, but because they are amazed by her courage of just facing life. Most of these kids have their own issues and struggle with them, and they're amazed at how Rachel just says, folks, can we just get on with things? That's part that's part of me, but that's not the whole of my life, and it will just be something I have to contend with. And I think the way she looks at it is that I've met that challenge. What's next? And I wish everyone who had any kind of a disability had that attitude. And I'm certainly learning it because I now have my own health issues, and I am trying to take a page out of her book and say, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. So, so she's had a great deal of medical issues to contend with. She's just been a champ about it. I know the doctors over the years have been thrilled at how self-reliant she is. Many of the kids don't have the ability to handle the medical equipment. From a very early age, she learned it, and because you've always gotten the sense that she wanted to stand on her own 2 feet. She didn't want to be a burden to someone. And so it's always been, Mom, I can do it. Stand back, Mom. And because I've always been this attitude, I'm here. I mean, I'm here to save you. I'm here. And she's like, I know you are, but I've got to do this for myself. And I'm so grateful for that. I am so grateful.
Robin, you shared some very powerful words, which I wrote down here, about acceptance. You talked about having things in our life either define or not define us, being completely yourself, and self-reliance. There's so much great information and ideas about how we can all live fully from what you just shared. If I was listening to this podcast myself, I'd want to go back and listen to what you just shared 2 more times because there was so much wisdom there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the day itself. And if you can walk us through a little bit about what happened at this experience, because I heard, like, I wasn't there, but I heard about it right away.
Yes.
And it was so cool. There's so much fun stuff around this.
Well, first off, the benefit that came to all of us was this jewel of a young woman we met and who we are still friends with and who we love and adore, and that's Kaylee Monroe. What a wonderful bundle. She is beautiful in spirit, inside and out, and so completely professional, so loving and caring and compassionate. She made an instant connection with us, and we felt completely at ease with her. And even when we, I believe it was the first night that we John and I videotaped our experience of being Rachel's parent, we instantly opened up because we felt that we could trust her with our story. She was completely professional and made everything seamless. So I think the moment that Rachel met her, that she felt, I found a friend, almost like a big sister, somebody who was going to guide her through this experience. And so Rachel felt immediately at ease, which is so vital in these kinds of situations where you're coming into somebody else's world and trusting them. They made the day so incredibly special. From the breakfast that morning, where we all sat down together and just shared our expectations of the day, to the fabulous gifts that she received and that she still looks through. And these beautiful cookies with all these big bang images on it that Rachel refuses to eat. They are in our freezer so that we can have them for eternity. And then, of course, the wonderful surprise, which I don't know how I didn't figure this out, but of course we found out about Front Row through Brianna. What I did not know was that Brianna was living in Los Angeles and that she was one of the individuals who helped facilitate this whole thing. So when she showed up at the hotel, I was like, what are you doing here? Well, I live here. I thought she lived back in Houston. So that was fabulous to see someone I knew from home and for her to spend the day with us, sharing the whole experience with us. And Brianna has her own health challenges, and Rachel and her connected immediately on that, and they've become great friends. So then as the day went on, we had this incredible tour of the studios, Warner Brothers Studios, which was incredible. And everything that happened there was fabulous. From Rachel being able to go into the store and choose any item that she wanted, from seeing all these things in person that she would see on TV. And it's like, my God, these are real. These sets are real. These objects are real. The Harry Potter exhibit at the museum, for any kid, that all by itself would have been enough. Her sister was extremely jealous that she wasn't there to see that. And then the limo pulling up at the hotel. That brought a smile to her face. I wondered if we were ever going to be able to travel in normal transport again once we were in a limo. And the excitement at dinner time, talking about what would be and how it would be, and because we didn't know what to expect, coming into the studio and sitting on the front row. I mean, we could have reached out and touched the actors. That's how close we were. And the place was packed as we expected it to be. The vibe in the studio was amazing. You could tell everyone in there fought to get their seat. And from what I found out later, many of them had been standing in line since 9 o'clock that morning, hoping to get a seat in that studio. So you could tell how enthusiastic these people were. As the show went on, there came a moment where they have a comedian who stays with the audience from the moment they come into the studio and to the end. And the reason being is that these shows actually take a very long time to tape. They're not 30 minutes. They go on for hours. And so you have to keep the audience focused. You have to keep the audience entertained. That you have to educate them about what they're seeing on stage when the actors are not performing. And also they provide a wonderful comedic backdrop to everything going on. And so it was incredibly entertaining. And at some point, I won't go into detail, I got up and made a complete fool of myself. But it was one of those spontaneous moments that I'm glad I had, but that's in the past. But I don't know if it was Rachel. You probably heard of it. I won't repeat it. But and then I found out that unfortunately everybody at every one of these tapings does what I did. So I'm not the only.
Oh, you got to tell us.
No,
the listeners are just like they're going, no, she can't go on without telling. You got it.
They had a contest, and I believe the contest was that whoever got up and did, I don't know, the funniest, most strangest dance or whatever would get a key. And one of these keys, there were 3 keys, and one of the keys would open up a box and you got some money. Well, I was like, I'm doing this for my daughter. And I am, believe it or not, a very shy person. I have never done anything spontaneously in my life. Next thing I know, my hand is up and I run up to the front of this audience of about, I don't know what, 200 or 300 people. And I start to dance. And it was a, very gentle, very, very nice, but mock sort of, not striptease, but moderately, slightly suggestive. But I kept it in good taste. Nothing came off. There were no nasty moves. And my husband was sitting over to the side with his jaw hanging down, like, what alien has come and taken my wife from me? And all I know is the audience loved it. They went crazy over it. So I went and sat back down. My husband continued to stare at me through the rest of the show. Like, I don't know what just happened, but we'll talk about this when we get home.
That's great.
But later on in the taping, gentleman who was emceeing this said, we've noticed something very special about the Big Bang audiences, and that they have a real fervor about this show, and that there's something that they personally connect with. Would anybody like to talk about that? And the next thing I know, I hear him say, yes, young lady, would you like to come up here? And I look over, and it's Rachel, who has her hand raised, bolts past me, runs up the aisle, cross the other, down the side, comes to the front, grabs the microphone, and starts talking about what the Big Bang Theory means to her. Now, this is a child who is incredibly shy around strangers, has never stood up in front of anybody and said anything, and has never been in a situation where she had to perform solo, like in music or sports or whatnot. We were agog. We could not believe it. And if I recall correctly, her words were something to the effect of, people with special needs tend to feel out of step with the rest of the world. We feel different. Well, this show is all about being different and how acceptable it is. And that's why I like to watch it. And people all applauded her. She came and sat back down. And I think John and I stared at her more the rest of the show than we stared at the show. We had never seen that courage in her before. And that ability to say, this is who I am, to people outside of our family. And it started something in her that has not stopped. It was a truly life-changing event for her. And then sadly, later that evening, we had to say goodbye to Kaylee. That was hard for all of us because we fell in love with her. Luckily, we have stayed in touch, and we love to look at pictures of her beautiful baby girl.
Yes.
And then throughout the rest of the trip, just before we left, we actually stayed a few more days just to have a little family vacation. I called up Brianna and said, do you think we could surprise Rachel by the last night? Maybe you come by and join us for dinner. And sure enough, that last night, Rachel was tearful. I miss Kaylee. I miss Brianna. Oh, gosh, these are the kind of people I want as girlfriends. And then Brianna shows back up. And so it was a wonderful ending to a 4 or 5 day vacation where the three of us could just be a nice, normal family together.
That's so great. What an incredible story. The way you just shared that, I felt like I was right there.
And of course, throughout the whole event, I'm getting texts and emails from friends going, really? You couldn't invite me to the Big Bang Theory? I'm not Rachel's closest and dearest friends. I'm not considered family. What's going on here?
And did she meet some of the actors?
Yes. We did not know during the taping that we would have an opportunity to go down onto the stage. And most of the actors immediately dispersed. So what you really had down there was the crew. As it turned out, 1 or 2 of them stayed around, and character Bernadette and the character Raj, and we were able to talk with them. But Rachel's heart and soul was for Johnny Galecki, who plays Leonard, and she just adores him. And I was looking around, I said, honey, I think he's already gone. And we had been there quite some time exploring the set when he suddenly walked by, and my once shy daughter yelled out, Johnny! To all of our amazement. He came up to her, talked with her, and when she told, well, you're my all-time favorite actor. This is, I'm so happy to meet you. He took her hand and he kissed it. And he told her, how lucky he felt to have her as a fan. I have never seen the expression that passed her face before. It was, I think, a combination of nirvana and euphoria like I had never seen. It was where she was able to attach a dream to reality. And it's something you rarely see. And that was it. The rest of the trip, we could have just sat on the floor in the hotel room. She would have been happy. We never expected that and never knew if he was going to be there. We just thought we're going to come see a taping and we'll leave. That was it. That for her was the highlight of holding his hand and him kissing her and looking into her eyes very intently as if no one else in the world was there. And I don't think she slept that night. And I don't think she washed that hand for a week.
That's great. Oh, makes me so happy. I just love this story. This is wonderful. I feel like we could talk about this stuff forever. I know you've got a busy day today. I want to move on and talk a little bit about the celebration piece of this as you look back. So, when was this? How long ago are we talking? I don't know when
This occurred in mid-February 2014.
Great. So when you looking at the time that's passed, how has Rachel's life been affected by this? How has your life been affected by this, or your family's life of this experience? Because as you know, and the reason I'm asking this is that part of what we talk about and share with our community is the idea of celebrating life. And we want to be excellent at celebrating life, not only as it's happening in the moment, but looking back on our experiences and being able to celebrate great moments, even being able to celebrate adversity.
Yes.
And celebrate who we become through adversity.
Oh, yes.
When you look back over this, what things do you celebrate? How does it continue to show up in your world now?
One thing people have to understand who are not parents of special needs children and adults is that moments like this actually come rarely. And I don't just mean moments of meeting a celebrity. I mean moments in which there is a realization about yourself that you have something to contribute. That's because children with special needs, medical disabilities, chronic health issues often don't get to participate in the things that other children can. So there are no trophies or certificates or ribbons, accomplishments that come so frequently to other children, mostly because a lot of what they're doing in life is just getting through it on a daily basis. And because of delays and whatnot, it becomes difficult for them to participate in everyday childhood activities. So this was the equivalent of 1,000 trophies, ribbons, certificates, and medals all rolled into one, because it told her first and foremost, you're special because of you. Second of all, something in that moment propelled her out of her comfort zone to do something that she didn't know she was capable of. But once she did it, there was no going back. And it was as if she found that well in her where that source of strength is, and she made her way to it. And she found a level of confidence that she didn't know before. And what we have seen since is a young lady now, who takes incredible initiative. She always did to a certain extent before, particularly with respect to her health and her medical needs at home. But what we've seen is in school and now in her volunteer work, an individual who has no fear about going forward and saying, can I do this? Can I talk to you about that? For instance, she is a volunteer teacher's aide at a nearby elementary school. She was the one to come to me and say, Mom, I spoke with the principal about this. I've scheduled a meeting for that. I'm going to be doing X. She's becoming an adult. She is becoming the person I always hoped that she would be, and that is independent and self-reliant. As a parent, of course, we look forward to the day that when our children become independent and self-reliant. That's why we're raising them as we do. Of course, that's much delayed when you have a special needs child and young adult. Well, that's happening now. And it was something I could never have envisioned, where she feels that she is in charge of her life. In particular, that part of her life where she feels that she's being productive and creative and certainly giving back to the community. That's tremendous because it touches upon her life in so many different ways. I've heard her talk about things and looking forward to the future that I would have never heard her speak about before, because she now sees it more within her control because she feels in control of it. It is something that, unless you're raising a child with these kinds of obstacles and impediments, to see this emotional and mental breakthrough is extraordinary.
That's so great. I got chills when you talked about that this was the equivalent of 1,000 trophies, medals, and I know I'm not quoting you exactly here, but it was all rolled into one.
Right.
And
yes.
I got chills when you said that. Incredible. How do you celebrate life? Do you have traditions? Does your family have traditions about how you might, on a daily basis, or on a, is there a journaling practice? Is there a process in which you can remind yourself, a habit per se, of how to celebrate life?
I'll put it to you like this, and this is going to sound very strange. When I was 16 years old, I was given a gift. And you may not think it's a gift, but it was a gift. I had a brother who was 5 years older than me, and he was tragically killed in an accident. It changed my life, of course, dramatically. I became an only child because of it, so our family dynamics changed. But it taught me right then and there what life is. If you could hear me snap my fingers, that's what it is. It's a moment. And if we don't take care of that moment, then we're going to get to a place one day where we regret all the moments that we didn't live. So from that point forward, I believed living in the present. If I was going to say or do something, I was going to say or do it. So every day, in every way, we tell each other we love each other. I'm not one of these, if I say I love you, they'll become weak and mushy. Forget it. I don't believe that. I believe you have to say it, you have to show it, you have to demonstrate it, and the more the better. They don't become dependent. They don't become, unconfident. They become individuals who know they are unconditionally loved, and that is the greatest gift a parent can give a child. I don't care who you are, what you're capable of, whether you're an A student or a C student, whatever. I love you because you came into my world. It is a gift that lasts a lifetime. I was the beneficiary of that gift, and I've passed it on to our children. We don't necessarily journal. We don't necessarily do anything other than be there for each other in every way, and our children know that they are the center of our lives, and that no matter what happens, our home is a place that they can return to for love and support and everything they need to get through life, because that was the responsibility we undertook when we brought them into this world. And so that's how we do it.
Robin, in the end, for you, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh my. Well, I know when my father passed away and we went to see our rabbi, and he knew my dad, and he wanted to list all kinds of attributes and go on and on and on. And that wasn't my father. I said, if he got up and said, "Here lies a good man," everyone would shake their head saying, "Yes, I got it. Say no more." That says it all. And I believe in that. I believe in goodness, not in terms of obedience, but in terms of being the best version of yourself, giving back to others, because if we're not here for each other, then who are we here for? What is our purpose? So I would like to be remembered for someone who was a good person.
Well, I think you're off to a great start.
Oh, thank you.
I think you're off to a great start. I love what you just said about if we're not here for each other, then what are we here for? That's going to go up on my wall today. Thank you for that reminder.
Okay.
That's fantastic. As a question I ask everybody, because everybody that is listening to this, I shouldn't say everybody, most people I know through conversation are interested in growing, learning. They read, they watch documentaries, they are always trying to enhance their experience of life so that they can then go serve at a greater level. They want to acquire the inspiration and the knowledge and all of the tools and resources available so they can go make the biggest difference in the world. What book or documentary, if you had to choose one, would you think should be mandatory for all humans to experience?
That's easy. That's Man's Search for Meaning, Dr. Viktor Frankl. That is a life-altering reading. You cannot read that book and not feel differently about life in general and your own life. It gives you perspective, and perspective is what helps navigate you through life.
Yes, that is a great, great book. We talk about that often. On a light note and on a fun note, what event would you want to see front row if you could pick anything, anywhere in the world? Sports, music, theater, what comes to mind that you would want to see front row?
For myself, if I were given a experience, my husband's not going to like this. Anything with Eric Bana. If you can arrange anything with Eric, if I can just see him in person for a second and kiss his feet, I would die happy.
That's awesome. Eric Bana.
Eric Bana. There we go.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, if anybody in our audience has any connections, please. Let's help Robin to make that dream come true.
Wants to meet Eric Bana.
That's right. Somebody send that tweet out.
There we go.
Any other final thoughts for our listeners today about anything we didn't talk about that would be important that you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
Well, when I look at Rachel's life, I have come to realize something, and that is she doesn't wish to be seen as a burden. She is determined to minimize her impact of what she needs to do to get through each day. And it led me to look at other issues in my life, things that I've had to survive. And if there's one thing I've kind of come up with through all of this is that you should never be someone that someone else has to survive. You should live your life in a way where you have minimal impact on someone else in terms of a negative impact. It's for you to take control of it. It's for you to change the course and direction. It's all within our power to do it. Maybe you need to find the tools to do it. And things like these podcasts, I think, are excellent tools in which to gain the perspective, the strength, the courage, the knowledge in which you can take hold of your life. These aren't words on a page. These are truly tools by which you can change your life. I've had it happen to me twice in my life where I reconfigured my thinking and my life changed completely. And so if you can see yourself as someone who has a ripple effect out on the world, and that you want that ripple to be one of positivity, one of change for good, then you have to minimize your impact in a way so that it is only for the positive and not for the negative.
Excellent. Thank you for this, Robin. I appreciate all of your thoughts, you opening up your heart, sharing your story and your family's story with us today. I really appreciate the fact that you are part of the Front Row family, and you certainly bring a lot of heart and soul to the table. I also want to share with you that, as I say to our guests, which I firmly believe, that I think with all of my being that you are making a difference in the world and shaping a global community that my children will grow up in. And so I think that you are having, as everybody is having, a direct impact on my children. So thanks for the good that you bring to the world, because it's helping my family.
Thank you. And the same to you.
Awesome. Well, I know that we will, this is just the beginning for us. And we've got many fun days ahead.
Yes.
Of staying connected. So for everybody listening, make sure to check out frontrowfoundation.org/Rachel. And you can see all the photographs from this chat that we've had today, along with a video. And you'll be able to then take what you've imagined in your mind and see it of actually how it unfolded. But Robin, I look forward to our next chat, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. Make sure to check out frontrowfoundation.org/Rachel and see all of her pictures and the video. It's awesome. You're going to enjoy it because Robin did such a great job of painting the picture for us, and now you get a chance to go see exactly what it was like. Thank you to everybody who supports Front Row Foundation with your time, your talents, or your treasures. I especially want to thank our monthly donors, our ambassador team. You know, we have hundreds of people who donate every single month, anywhere from just a few dollars all the way up to $500 a month. I will tell you that it's this core group that there is a steady amount of money coming into the charity each and every month. It is our number one source of revenue that we generate. And this group is responsible for creating multiple experiences throughout the year for people just like Rachel. If you'd like to become an ambassador, you can do that by signing up at frontrowfoundation.org. But no matter where you give, just find a charity that you're passionate about and start sharing, again, your time, your talents, or your treasures. Also, if you were moved by this episode today, share it with somebody. You know, we always encourage at the end of these shows to just share the show with one person, or, you know, post it on your Facebook wall or shout it out on your favorite social media. But the idea is to share with the world things that move you, things that have helped you. And I got so much out of this episode. I want to tell you that there's so many great ideas that were shared. In particular, you know, the idea about accepting fully our lives and, you know, not letting certain adversities define us, but allowing those adversities to help strengthen us. And when she talks about self-reliance, I got so much out of that. Think about who in your life would benefit from that. On another note, catch me on social media. I'd love to hear from you. Who would you like to hear from down the road? Who should I have on the show? What topics would you like to hear about? You can catch me on Twitter at John Vroman, JONVROMAN, or Instagram or Facebook. We'd love to chat. Also, feel free to reach out and connect with our Facebook community just for our Front Row family. And that you can get there by going to frontrowfriends.com, and that will take you to our Facebook group. That's it for today, everybody. Keep living life in the front row, and we'll catch you back on the next show.
That's all for this episode of The Front Row Factor. To discover more simple and effective ways to lead a fearless front row life, visit frontrowfactor.com and subscribe to John's 4 Minutes in the Front Row, where he shares quick stories from real-life experiences. Thanks again for joining us today. We hope our show inspires you to live big, give big, and experience life to the fullest. See you next week on The Front Row Factor.